Here's a legal question.
Yes.
Could P. Diddy sue him for that?
Food. All the dogs are starting to howl.
Let's not put the video of him singing on the beginning of the podcast so that we don't lose the.
It's not bad. Come on, bro. P. This is for you, P. Diddy. I know you've got some bad publicity lately.
Yeah, you really should.
50 Cent, well done for your new docuseries with Netflix. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
He's doing a docuseries about P. Diddy.
He's doing a docuseries about. Oh shit! Talk about
They're
the
like,
ultimate.
oh, bro.
We're gonna talk about results and talking about your own results.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Everyone, the question that we're gonna talk about today on this episode, other than the nonsense P. Diddy did, is how the hell do you talk about your own results in copy without creating a net impression or bad implied earnings claim? So there's the two extremes to this, right? There's the extreme of like, there's an extreme that we've been to at one point, even with me, where the rule that Greg gave me, this is in the middle of my investigation where I was writing a webinar, as he said, and I remember this because it was traumatic. He said, the only place you can use the dollar sign in an entire webinar of an hour and a half, the only place you can use the dollar sign is in the price. That's the only time you can do it. You can't use it anywhere else on any other side. I'm like, what? Like, this is insane. Is this compliance? And at that very moment, I had decided I would never venture out to teach you guys a compliance because I no longer believed in compliant marketing. I was like, this is bullshit. Then later on, he explained to me that, you know, there's different grades of this and that I was right in the middle of something, right? So, like, everything I'm doing is being hawked, watched. So, like, let's be extra careful. Today, when I market, I'm doing so a little bit differently. I've got some of my results and some of my numbers there. But I'll be honest, Greg, even I don't fully understand when that's allowed and when that isn't. And I just kind of lean on him and let him review it. So that's what we're going to talk about on this episode. How do you talk about your own results without getting sued by the regulators? So, Greg, you're back in the office. You're still in the office, I should say. Thank you for being here. I don't know what the people are saying because we haven't released these episodes yet, but I think these are much, much better. So I appreciate you being here. Just so everyone knows, this shit's being filmed super early in the morning. All right. I'm not a morning person. Greg is super energetic in the morning.
I'm ready. Let's go.
We've had caffeine, and so I apologize ahead of time for any of the nonsense that we pull here.
Nonsense.
Okay.
I didn't get a workout yet this morning, Onyx, so that makes me unhappy.
I didn't get a workout in this year, so
yeah, well,
that's a separate problem.
I'm older.
Yeah,
I'm older. I have to do it.
Greg, so how do people? This is an actual question concern from members, from book readers that have come in, and it's like, how can I talk about? You know, and I get that. How can I teach something if I'm not allowed to ever share what I've done?
Yeah.
How will I? So you talk about it, and then I'll poke some questions.
Well, let's put in context your statement about like, hey, this dollar sign thing.
Yeah.
If you remember, what had happened just weeks before that is the FTC reached out and said, hey, we've watched your recent webinar that you just did, and we have some questions about the content in which you had just put in that webinar. Yeah. And so I explained, they're going to look at everything you're doing right now, so let's be super conservative. Yeah. So there's a time to be super conservative. I think that's what you're talking about, different levels of what you should do. So the question was posed is, what about my own experiences? If I get up there and I say, I'm a masterful, you see this all the time, actually, right now, it just cracks me up. Like every state that I'm in, when we were in Miami to do the presentation we did, or Tampa, we were in Tampa, right? Yeah. When we were in Tampa, last month or a couple months ago, if you drove down the freeway, there was these big billboards that talk about like, here's Mr. Smith's law firm. I've collected $60 billion and stuff for my clients. And I think we talked about it a little bit. It's like, how do they get away for doing this? And we can't say this. Well, let me put the context of all that together. First, they shouldn't be able to do that. I think it's total BS as well. But you got to look at the risk factors in the industry or business you're engaged in. Unfortunately, when regulatory bodies look at some, online marketers, especially marketing in some sort of space where it's the, money-making opportunity space or knowledge business space or make quick results space, there's more scrutiny on that private education space than there is for like traditional businesses. I'll do it all the time. I'll flip on a TV ad, a local channel, and the local car dealership or some sort of business will say something, and I'll be like, there's no way you could get away from that if you're an online marketer, because the scrutiny is just way higher for you than it is for other industries. Is it fair? It's not fair, but at least you understand what the rules are of engagement. They just don't look at you the same way. I'll get this all the time. Greg, I've been to, the mall, and they do price slashing all the time. Why can't I do bonus stacking like that? And it's like, well, one, it's a retail product. It's a shirt or a suit, and it's something that's tangible that they get immediately. So the deliverables are there versus something that is kind of intangible, right? Mm-hmm. This knowledge education thing. So back to your question. I know I'm off a little bit on this, but let me go ahead and say this. So when you use your own personal results, understanding that we're not retailers, we're online marketers, or we're out in the space marketing. When you use your personal results, you have to consider that to be as if it's a testimonial. Just for you, it's a self-testimonial. So what I look at, again, we're going to use a word that you are getting familiar with, the net impression of the way that you're using the content of your self-testimonial comes into play. So if you haven't watched our other content that talks about testimonials, there's still 4 main elements that you have to make sure you abide by when you use a testimonial. Now, the first one's not really applicable because you don't really have to get a release from yourself, but the other 3 are all applicable as well, which is you have to have substantiation for the claim in which you're making. You have to make sure that that claim is, if you can substantiate it, which is true and everything else, that it's typical to the customer's experience. And lastly, to have a proper disclosure. Now, a lot of clients will struggle with getting even just the basic substantiation for the statements they say. Now, you're unique because you have a lot of substantiation, right?
Well, so let's talk about each one, right? So I have the substantiation now.
Right.
We go out of our way. So like on my webinar there, I have a low ticket product where I sell people, how to do webinars. And the exact number, if I remember correctly, is I've done $58.6 million in webinars in a 4-year window. And so like we have that. We have a spreadsheet with every sale, and now, it's not that we didn't have that before, but we didn't have it downloaded.
Right.
I would say something in the past. I'd be like, I've done over $50 million, or I've done $60 million, and I would kind of make a guess, and it was close. But now we realize close is not acceptable. It's
horseshoes and hand grenades. That's all close is good for.
Yeah. So so substantiation. We have the spreadsheet, the exact details, graphs, proof shots, whatever the hell is relevant to that, we have it, and we put it now. We keep it all in our little drives, and we create little drives around every campaign to make sure we have substantiation for everything. And we have a whole checkpoint, guys, just so you know. When we get done writing copy, there is a checkpoint. So it's part of our SOP now, where one of us will go through the copy line by line and say, is there anything in here that needs to be substantiated, and do we have substantiation for it? And if not, take it out. And if we do, great. So that's a part of our copywriting process that was never there before. We weren't doing that. Not out of ill will, but we just didn't really do it. Didn't know that was that serious. Anyway, sorry. So that's substantiation.
Yeah. So again, well done for that. I find that most marketers are not substantiating claims. So they'll wait. I think they're like you. I feel like it's about this. So but it can't be that way. It has to be specific. Yeah. And so, and you can't just later go ahead, because if the FTC comes in and they issue a CID, they don't give you months and years to provide the substantiation. They give you 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that, remember the cause of action that they like to lean on the most is false or unsubstantiated claims. And if you're not able to substantiate it because you don't have the information, then they consider that it's a misrepresentation. So it's important that if you're going to get up in front of other people, the very first thing is you got to make sure that the information you're sharing is 100% accurate. Because if you flub just a little bit, they can look at that as a deception to the consumer. So substantiation is the first thing. Mm-hmm. Now we move past that and you say, okay, Greg, I can prove. I mean, we've got it. We've got the Excel spreadsheets. We've got the charts. We've got the documented evidence to show that this is what I've done. Why can't I just go out and tell the world that I've made $50 million in the last 10 days? Well, because of the impression that it creates, that it may not be a typical experience for your consumer. Now, I get it. A lot of you guys, if you're and girls are out there marketing, and when you're in marketing, you're like, we don't expect our consumers to think they're going to do what we do, right? And if you put it in a position like yours, where it's so evident in the context of the net impression that you're not saying to people, hey, come and be me, right? The way that you've presented and the way that we've changed the marketing is, look, people, I'm not promising you're going to be me, because you do a really good job of disclosing this in a lot of places. I'm not promising you to be me. I'm just trying to say, hey, listen, if you're trying to do a drip sequence, you're trying to do an ad campaign, or you're trying to do a funnel, this is the type of experience that I've had in the past of how we've generated profitable campaigns. Now, you can use these strategies, and if you use them well, then maybe it puts you in the best position to succeed. But these are things that you should consider when you're trying to put together a successful campaign. The tone of that is, I'm going to teach you how to utilize successful elements of a campaign, not that you're going to make $56 million.
But in my case, I've been able to use the big numbers.
Right.
And I want to get into why I think, you tell me if I'm right, why I think you approved these unique situations. So what I remember going over with you was the following. So number one, it shows up once or twice on the whole page.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. The problem, and I'm talking like you based off of 2 years of working with you, so tell me if I'm wrong, but what I've taken away is the problem that an attorney like Greg has by saying, sure, you can use that, is we marketers go, hee, all right, bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
And when we do bam, 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 that's what creates the net impression.
Right.
So if I keep saying, hey, Greg, I've made $50 million. Hey, man, I'm not saying that you'll be able to make that, but like, Greg, imagine, I've been able to make $50 million. By the way, remember, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to do that. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, Greg, I've made $50 million doing this. It's like if I keep stressing that, subconsciously, if Greg walks away from that prepresentation, goes to the other room, they're like, hey, what'd you learn? He's like, that dude's made $50 million.
$50 million.
This shit really works, right? It should almost be used so little
subtly
that the person won't remember it afterwards. So I've used it a couple times. Now, second, watch my video, read the copy. Every time I say the number, right somewhere within proximity, I'm like, this is insane. This is ridiculous. I go out of my way not just to say results may not be typical. I'm like, this shit ain't going to be typical. This is not what you're going to achieve. This is ridiculous. I've been doing this for 20 years. Why did I even tell you this? I'm only telling it to you so you understand you're learning from someone credible. But do not for a minute even assume. And by the way, don't think I didn't invest a lot. Guys, I have a team that cost me millions. I invested over $20 million in just paid traffic. I have had many months where I lost money. So I go out of my way to express the other side so that people don't think I just banked $50 million. So the way I do that, I'm letting someone else know immediately, because I'm like, hey, to make that, I also invested $20 million. So immediately someone can go, well, fudge, I'm not going to be able to do that right away. Boom, great. That's the right impression. So 1, I don't overuse it. 2, super substantiated. 3, I go out of my way to be like, dude, this is only for the purpose of credentials. That's it. Now we're going to move on, and we're just going to talk about the actual strategy. And then 4, I think this helped. We never talked about this, but I go out of my way to do this, and I feel like it helped. I talk about the bad stuff too, or I talk about the stuff that most marketers leave out. What did I invest into it? What do I have? How much did it take to get that? Because I think that's what most marketers leave out, right? We never know what they're making profit. We just know their overall revenue and the net impression they usually leave. I make $10,000 a day. If you say that to me, the net impression I have is that you make net $10,000 a day with no other expenses. So I go out of my way to say, hey guys, I've invested this much in paid traffic and this and that. It's been over this much time. It took me time to figure it out. I've had times where I lost money, made money. And then the 5th one, if there was a 5th, is, I think mostly it's you always review it and you say, what's the context,
right,
and what's the net impression I created. So what I took away was, okay, it's not that I can never share my macro results, my success, but I have to, if I'm going to do it, I have to be extra delicate about it. And what I choose to do is go overboard. I'm just, my personal choice, I go overboard the other side. And what I found is, honestly, the more overboard I've been going, the more I think
Less
it
credibility.
helps.
Yeah.
I think people are like, yeah, I get it. Thanks for making that clear. Again, it goes back to another episode I shared where I was like, you've got the what we call, not disrespectfully, but just a term we use in marketing, down market, up market. Down market might get turned away from that type of disclosure because they came to you wanting to make $1 million in the next 30 days, and I'm telling them, no chance you're going to do that. The up market goes, shit, all right, awesome. I know I went on a bit of a monologue there. Did I summarize mostly correctly what you try to teach?
I think what happens too often is that people go to the well too often with those kind of claims. And so it's not just embedded once as a subtle reminder. So you're trying to create credibility by using that. I know what you're trying to do, marketers. You're trying to say, hey, look at me. This is why you should listen to me. But the problem is you just blow past that mark and you just burn it into their heads like, look how awesome I am. And I want you to think about this in context. You ever been to a party or to a meeting or a dinner or whatever? There's that one dude that's there and he's always like name dropping and talking about how wonderful they are. Well, that's 100% what you're doing when you keep on going back to the well over and over. So I'll read ad copy on a funnel and it'll be like every page is like embedded that stat or that number. And it's so much that's the takeaway. The walk away from the net impression is this person made millions of dollars. If I join this, I should be successful. And that's not a guarantee of success versus what you do, which is, hey, the context of this is I want you to understand that I've been successful on this, but I've had trial and error. And what we want to do is to teach you the strategies and give you the resources and the support necessary to avoid some of the pitfalls that we stepped into as we figured this out. So the benefit of working with us is to hopefully help you avoid the same problems that I spent millions of dollars to do.
And that sounds reasonable. Right? Like when I'm listening to you present it, it sounds reasonable. Now, I will also say, so what you saw Greg say, I've been able to say as a marketer. So it might have a little bit more frills to it, right? But it's okay. It's compliant. I just make it sound a little
sexier.
bit more.
He's saying it's sexier. That's all he's doing.
I was trying to say that.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He's like, you're boring attorney robot. It's like,
it's not, we have ads that sell the book. I mean, my ads do better. I don't know what to tell you. It is my audience, though. It's literally on the Onyx Singal page.
I know.
And then Greg's video shows up. It's like, who the hell's that dude? He's not brown. Where did he come from? All right. So where I was going with this, I wanted to test something. This is a theory. I never told you I did this. So I took one of my friends. Now, it's not really a blind test because my friend obviously knows I'm very successful. But my friend doesn't know that webinars and all this nonsense. He's in the IT industry, right? He just knows I'm really successful. I think he knows I run webinars because he must be on my email list, but he doesn't understand that this is like a thing to learn, that there is a formula for webinars and all that. So I showed him, we were at dinner, this is like 2-3 months ago. I took my cell phone because I was curious to see. I've been fascinated by net impression. Okay. That's a concept that to me, I'm trying to figure out how to like code it, right? And try to like, how can we use AI and we're working on that now. It's kind of cool. I'm using AI to say like, what is it? So I wanted this interaction with my friend to be something that I can take over to a AI environment. And so I gave him my phone, had the sales page loaded. I said, take a minute, please. All right. Literally take a minute. I'm eating. Scroll this page, scan it. And I'm just going to ask you some questions afterwards. Like read it because I'm going to ask you questions about it. I'm curious. So again, right. Not from our industry. He does. Okay. He scans it, looks it over. Give them about a minute. And because, I'll tell you honestly, that's what most consumers do. A lot of consumers buy real quick. I don't know very many people that actually read every word on your copy. So they scan it, they kind of get their idea, and then they make a decision whether they're going to go deeper or not. And it takes a minute. He's done. He pushes my phone back. I was like, what was it about? Like, what'd you take away? Like, what's my sales page about? That was a sales page. What's it about? His exact words are the following. He goes, you're teaching people how to create webinars that can help them sell stuff. This is literally, it was like the shortest, most basic stuff. It's like, you're teaching people how to write webinars that can help them sell stuff. I was like, yeah, cool. And he goes, oh, and you have, and he goes, oh yeah. And you have like a 5-step system. Like you have a certain system that you're using, that you've been using for a lot of time. and you talk about how it's worked for you for many years, and that's what you're going to teach them. So that was cool. I'm like, okay. I was like, how much have I made through webinars? How much money have I made with webinars? And he's like, I don't remember. He's like, I know. He's like, I think I saw it. He's like, I don't know. And I was like, bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah. Net impression. He even said, he's like, I think it was in there. Like, I remember. But it was, and it is. It shows up. And then I showed it back to him. I said, now, staring at it, tell me how much I've made through webinars. And he goes, oh, it's right here. You know, you made $58.6 million in 4 years. He's like reading the thing. Yeah. I said, great. And I take it back. And I say, do you, by having scanned this page, and I said, do you feel that you're going to make $58.6 million in the next 4 years using webinars? And the guy starts laughing. He's like, no. And so I go, bingo. And he's looking at me, he's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm just doing a little legal concept, little play with you, just try to understand this concept, right? But ideally what I should do is go grab an old page, something that I may have written 10 years ago, and show it to him and see what he thinks. But I will tell you that my old stuff did create a bad net impression to the same guy. And I'll tell you why I say that, because for the longest time, he would show up every 2-3 months to me. He's one of my closest friends, and he'd be like, I really want to get this stuff going. Like, I need extra income. Like, I got married. Like, and he does really well. And he's like, I don't want to slog away at work all the time. Like, I need extra. So I was like, great, come on over. Let's do some stuff. Hey, here's a bunch of work. Go do this and come back. And he would always fall off the map. So I remember years ago, I had a conversation with him. I said, what are you doing, man? Like, you always show up. I give you work. You never do it. And he's like, well, I mean, I didn't realize it has to be like that much work. I thought it was like super easy. Like, I could just
couldn't do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's like, well, I thought I'm like, you got to spend at least 1 to 2, 3 hours a day. And he's like, I've just spent like 20 hours a week. I'm like, at least. He's like, I don't got that kind of time. And I'm like, why would you think otherwise? Like, you're starting a business. And he kind of looks at me innocently. He's like, I mean, everything says I don't need much time to do this. And this is a conversation I remember with him from years ago. Right. So think about it. That's net impression. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's the same person. And I think I keep trying to explain this to people, and I think, guys, it's a muscle you have to learn. I'm getting there now, finally, after 2 years in an investigation where I'm like, what's the net impression of this thing? But I think it comes down to that more than anything else. And I think the reason you see Greg being so hardcore about one rule is because he understands that you break that rule, you're going to break 6 other rules. And as soon as you break those 6 rules, your net impression sucks.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, I think you said it best. You've got to be subtle with it. You can't go to the well so much. So I'm reluctant. I mean, there's degrees of risk in any business. I mean, whether you're marketing online or you're engaged as a law firm and offering legal services, there's certain risks. You know, you're engaging in some sort of activity that could have liability. And so when I look at ad copy, it's like, okay, what are the risks of saying this and how can we mitigate them? So you can get your credibility like you've done, but not do it so much that it's just in your face that it creates a net impression that somebody's going to walk away with the wrong concepts.
Okay, I got to talk about this. This is cool.
I'm ready.
We talked about this. No, this is to give people hope. It gives hope. So you said versus revenue. I would love for you to, if you want to establish credibility, use something else.
Right.
Use the number of sales, transactions, leads, clicks, conversion rate. Even there, by the way, massive substantiation needed. Still got to put all that context. Don't lean, if it's a crazy number, don't like completely lean on it. But when I do my ads, if you guys have ever noticed, you will not see a single ad of mine selling my webinar program that says, I've made $58.6 million using webinars and I want to show you how I did it. That's how I would have done ads in the past, because I would have thought that's compliant. It's my results, but I've not started any of my webinar ads that way. However, I have started some ads saying, I've got a formula for writing webinars that for me has generated over 52,000 transactions of a high ticket product. And then I go to substantiate the shit out. No, then I go to qualify that. But the video focuses more on everything but the income. And I still don't go back to the well again and again. But I have found, guess what? Those ads convert and get just as many clicks as the one that would talk about money.
Because when you go to the well, it loses credibility. Just like the dude that's sitting there telling you like, oh, yeah, I was with so-and-so last night, and then I did this and this. And it's like, how much credibility do you have to established before
Yep.
you start getting annoying.
Yeah.
And credible, like the uptick customers that you're talking about, the upside customers you're talking about, they don't want to be oversold on that. They want to be like, okay, can I trust you? And if so, then tell me what I need to do versus, okay, I want to trust you, but man, you're just showing all your,
showing
your
off.
medals.
Yeah.
You're showing off to me,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. I'm out. So you're losing that higher tier client because they look at it. Because think about the stuff you buy. If you were constantly looking at things to buy, and it was like constantly in your face, like I did this, look how wonderful I am. You don't want to be around that person. You don't want to buy that offer. And I think if you're honest with yourself, marketers, you're like that too. You wouldn't buy that offer yourself.
No.
So why would you think it would convert well anyway? So yeah, I'm hesitant sometimes to let people have the green light, but you and I trust you because we've spent time and I've taught you the principles behind the net impression that you're not going to overuse it, where most marketers are just going to blast the heck out of it.
So I know, I get it. When you let me use it, I've even told team members before, I've said, because Dave said, well, I've got Greg on record here. I heard this video, whatever. He said, we can never use it. I said, guys, the problem with that is that when Greg gives people an inch, they take an arm.
Right.
And so if he risks that, so he's on a video saying something, there's going to be a crap load of people watching it that he has no control over, that are going to see it and that are going to apply it the way they understood it. And then later on say, Greg told me. Right. So what he's got to do, which I agree with him, is give the most conservative answer.
I had this last night. So I reviewed a script for 60 seconds. So some of my clients do what are called short form commercials that broadcast on TV on network channels. And so I had reviewed a script that they had given, but I hadn't seen the background or anything for that. So I finally saw the video last night, and I looked at it, and it was like it said like, let me show you how you can convert 500% return in one day. And I looked at it and was like, whoa, way over the top, right? Yeah. So I sent back an email last night with the link, and I'm like, this is too aggressive. You can't post this. I don't even know if the networks will allow you to post this because I think it's too aggressive. And the response back was just what you said. But you reviewed the script and you said it was okay. Yeah, I reviewed the script in a box. Yeah. And I didn't see the pictures and everything else in the context of the way you were going to present this. I mean, a chart showing 250% in one day. Like, I didn't see that until I saw the final produced production. 100%. I'm like, there were 6 videos. I disapproved 2 out of the 6. Yeah. And it was because they were so strong. Yeah. But the thing that I get thrown in my face all the time, well, you said this. Well, 1, I reserve the right to change my mind. But 2, once you look at the context of things, you're like, that can't happen.
Yeah. Context. It's so key. Which is kind of interesting, Greg, because I feel like while I was in the case of being investigated by the FTC, I remember specifically the other attorney at that time, and he was like, dude, things are black and white. There's no gray when they're reviewing stuff. I don't actually agree.
Yeah, they're not gray. They're not black and white.
At the end of it, I actually don't agree. I feel my case went very differently than other clients you've had that I've publicly seen the case results. Heck, there was another case that started a week before mine, just a week before mine, and that was like 6-7 months. Bam, bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Like, screw you. Shut up. We hate you. We got you. And my case started a week later, but I took an extra year, right? And I wanted extensions. They said, no problem. The other person wanted extensions. From what I heard, nope, can't have them. And I think the reason my case went different was because, to whatever degree, although not enough for the case to go away, there was context. There was gray. There was a clear attempt to do the right thing. There was a clear lack of complaints. And so context, I'm coming out and saying this, because for a while, I was believing that there's no black or white, there's no gray. I said, no, actually, I think there's quite a bit of gray. And I think the context really matters. And I think that what would have happened is, if a lot of what I do today had been present in my marketing before, I promise you, I feel like I would have done great just the same. I think my company would have grown and done great. But I think that the FTC, I'm not putting thoughts in their minds. I don't have no clue. I think that they would have, if I was doing what I do today, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think they would have clearly looked at it and said, not optimum target. Like he's not violently breaking the rules, and
Right.
there's context, and he's not, let's go after someone else.
This is a key thing for everybody to take into mind when you're looking and putting this together, and when you're using your personal stories and how you're building it into this. You've got to understand that the first objective that I have for every client is to make sure they stay off the target from the FTC or a regulatory body in the first place. Yeah. We want to make sure they don't look your direction. I mean, there's so many, you guys can look on YouTube and everything else. You can see all the people that are saying, make $10,000 in 2 minutes in your sleep. There's a lot of those offers out there. So let's try not to be as loud as those. And I know you're going to say, well, but they get all the attention. But are they getting the right attention? You don't know how many people that they're dealing with complaints and problems behind the scenes. You just see this offer and you're assuming, hey, this is rope and a dope and they're making a ton of money. So don't make an assumption that they're that successful. In fact, one of the cases you mentioned before that was settled really fast that I was on, the problem was it was a mess behind the scenes. Oh. And so it looked like they were doing great, but they weren't. Mm-hmm. And most of the times when you're dealing with settlements, and I told you this in your settlement, was your case is harder because you're fiscally responsible. Most of these people, they're not running profitable businesses. So you don't see that until you get behind the scenes. And so, maybe their settlement's a little bit less because they've blown through the money. Yeah. But let me go ahead. First solution is we want to stay off the radar. The second is we want to have legitimate defenses in case they look at you. Now, you had a lot of legitimate defenses. Mm-hmm. One of those is you didn't have a lot of complaints, didn't have a lot of chargebacks, didn't have a lot of cancellations. You dealt well with the consumer. And so building up defenses in case you are looked at is super helpful. So you had that. So knowing that, when you come to me and you say, hey, can I use this figure, $56 million? One, I know that you've been trained. Mm-hmm. I know you're not going to go to the well too much. And you've got all these back defenses because of the way you treat the consumer. You have a back end. We talked about it this morning. A lot of people will put up and say, hey, let's sell this product and service. And the client gets in the back end. There's nothing there. Yeah. Your back end is filled with content and service. Mm-hmm. You've got great customer service. You've got all the other activities and elements that are necessary to have a good offer. Yeah. But then you add on top of it, your marketing is impeccable on top of that. Then you get to do these things by saying this. If you don't have that, if you go out there and you use the big numbers, you go and use them too much, and then you don't have a good back-end offer, you're not taking care of your consumers, you have a lot of chargebacks, you have complaints,
then it's just...
then it's a no deal. Yeah. You've got to look at the global picture when you're deciding how you're going to present this material to your clients.
And this is why the rules... someone asked this question, Greg, because I posted in the group. I said, "Hey, Greg is here. I'm going to be filming up episodes." And someone posted this, and I'm not going to name them, but someone I've gotten to know well in the group, good group member, and I'll say what he said. And I don't actually agree with the sentiment. He said, "If these things are so important, why isn't the FTC more specific and direct?" It almost seems like they want companies to get in trouble. And again, this goes to the base wrongful thinking that the FTC keeps your money. I used to think that too. A lot of people think that this is a money grab that helps fund the government. And it isn't. Most of that money goes right back out to the consumers. And so first of all, they're not interested in your money. Secondly, I used to think this too. I'm like, why don't they just specifically say what they need to say? The truth of the matter is they do. Their lawyer's writing it. It's a little bit complex. That's why we wrote this book, to kind of make it simpler. That's just the world that they're in.
But let's be honest. Yeah. How many of you, before you started watching this podcast or you started getting the book or something else, even talked to an attorney before you started marketing? No. It's the first thing I ask most marketers. Yeah. Hey, did you run this content past any law firm or attorney beforehand? Yeah. No. They didn't care.
They didn't even. A lot of people don't even know that they should, right?
Well, that's part of it.
And that's part of our mission, right? Is to get that word out there. But I think the point I'm trying to make is what I've taken 2 years to learn is that it's not that the rules are different. It's just that the rules they're a little flexible in the sense of how you say the context. It matters. How you say it, the visuals around what you say, the way you say it, how often you say it is a part of, that's why they say net impression. I get it now. I didn't really understand it before. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought a year ago, I thought the net impression concept was a gotcha. Because I was like, dude, they can always bend that no matter what and just say, well, our net impression is that this. No, it's actually, my friend across the dinner table can tell me the net impression of a piece of copy. Like it's not unreasonable. It's not actually a gotcha catch. It's a truthful, hey, this is in the end what we care about the most. The reason we tell you not to do these things is we find that when you do these things, they create a bad net impression. It's the byproduct. So just to wrap it up, unless you have something specific. To wrap it up, guys. The results of your own, if you follow all the guidelines that we said, they can be used. It should be touched upon. It should not be the hyper-focus. Step back and look at yourself and say, what the hell is a net impression I created? But regardless, if you say something specific, I call them absolute statements. If you make an absolute statement of any form, substantiate the hell out of it first before anything else, right? You have to have the records on the side. Having said that, I'm doing it. You can watch me doing it, and I believe I'm doing it very well. I can probably tell you right now that I have more eyes on me than most people. I'm pretty sure that they're watching what I'm doing. I would expect that of them, and it doesn't keep me up at night. I feel good about what I'm doing. It's checked by Greg, and I haven't heard anything from them now. We've been settled for 7-8 months or whatever. And I am damn sure, guys, if I went right back at it and was like, da, 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 I'm pretty sure I'd hear from them. You haven't passed cases, right? They watch. Yeah. There's an entire division, you told me, at the FTC. The enforcement division watches. And Greg has had multiple clients that started screwing around within a short time, and you got notified. You got a notice saying, hey, they're doing some bad stuff. So I'm not saying I'm doing it right, because I don't think there is a right, and I never want to say that. But I would say that I'm obviously doing something in a way that is not raising eyebrows right now. But I'm being very careful. Watch my marketing, and you guys will see it. I want to leave one more point. You talked about, by the way, when you say specific claims, it's clickbaity. It gets more attention. 1,000% correct. We're going to have a separate episode where we talk about social media content. But I want to make this point. We, in this community, our FTC compliance community, I have never seen a more rabid, activated, excited community. I've been in business for 21 years. We're small, right? So far, we've had
because I'm a part of it.
Yes, because you're part of it 100%.
It's all me.
We've had 1,000 book sales. We have like 500 people in our Facebook group. We have the tiniest email list. Our podcast episodes get anywhere between 100 to 1,000 views. I mean, compared to what I'm used to doing, these are small numbers. But the people that we have, like you joked about it. You said, can we do a compliance summit? Remember before I was like, man, I don't know if I want to sign a hotel agreement, Now I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like it'll be full. Like people will come. So my point is,
I've got my sequences. I'm ready. I've got the numbers I'm going to perform on stage.
Oh, nice. You're going to sing for us?
Yeah. I'm ready.
All right, awesome.
The Copacabana.
Then we'll do it at the Kennedy Center. Why not?
Why? Yes. Why not?
Yes. So I think the point I'm getting at is that after marketing for 21 years, without compliance in mind, forget that for a second. I'm just telling you, like, I actually want the right people and not more people. That is what I want moving forward. I think a smaller audience that's rabid is what you want, and an audience you attract that's all built off of clickbaity, high numbers, big numbers is going to be the down market audience. With that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, guys. Remember, the book, grab it.
Compliance Revolution.
The Compliance Revolution. If you want to be a giant, go compliant. Don'tSayThat.com/go is the book. The URLs are in the video, right below the video in YouTube. And also CompliantAcademy.com. Join us. We have a certification program and a lot of real cool stuff. 33 disclosures, agreements, contracts.
Working on 34.
Working on 34.
Working on 34.
We'll keep adding more. It's amazing stuff. Get in there. And if nothing else, give us some damn money so you can support the hell of what we're doing here. All right, give us money. How's that for disclosure and just complete?
I like it.
How's
I like
that
it.
for complete
I like it.
transparency? Give
I like
us
it.
money.
I have 8 children. Please, I have to get them through school.
He really
you know how
does.
expensive it is.
By the way, he really does have 8 children. So I've got 2. He's got 8. It's crazy. All right, guys. Love you. As I always say, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, push the heck back. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.